Hi everyone, welcome back to Let's Do Bonsai. Today we've got some serious root work to do on a Pinus parviflora, so let's get on with that and let's do bonsai. So here is the Pinus parviflora, the white pine, the 5-needle white pine. The candles are coming out quite well, but it is struggling to grow because we've got quite a bit of serious root work to do in here. The tree has been trying to grow, and as you can see there, we've got some extensive roots where it's pretty pot bound and it's trying to grow. There's some nice new growth in there, but we need to get rid of all this old soil and all these old roots and get it into a new training pot so that it can continue to grow nicely. So let's take it out of the pot and see what we can do with the roots. So this pine is severely pot bound, root bound, but it is quite loose, so if we tease away at the roots, we'll see what we can free up and work away at. So we'll just take the root rake and just see what we can get from the top first of all, working away on the top layer of soil, freeing up as much of these roots as possible. And it'll expose as well our trunk a little bit more. It has got quite a strange trunk. There's quite a bit of old trunk down the bottom. It looks like it had been grafted at some stage, but I'm not sure whether that is the case. It might just be that the old trunk was cut away and one bud grew through, but we'll just work away at the roots, combing out in a radial fashion, and it's coming out quite nicely. It's not as bad as I'd feared. I thought we were going to have a bit of a nightmare with these roots with how pot bound and root bound the planting is, but it's actually coming up quite really well. We are getting some damage to the roots, but more the crossing roots than anything else. But when we get it into some nice bonsai soil, hopefully this will continue to grow on and grow well. So we'll just keep working away. So we are exposing quite a bit of nice trunk here that's further down and into the soil. But we'll continue working away and see what roots we've got to work with here. The roots are breaking away, which, you know, kind of leans towards all this white fungusy that you can see could be, you know, quite a bit of damage to the roots, but they were still growing, they were still putting out, you know, new root growth, but the root in amongst everything was, you know, dying away. So it is a good job we're doing this work, and it's not so bad. We've got all this root here all twisted around on each other, but we'll get it into its training pot eventually, and we'll see how it continues to go. We'll just work away a little bit at the bottom here, and we've got this big flat lump at the bottom, so there might be something we've got there. It's pretty solid down there, so that, you know, we'll work away at it and see what we've got. But we've got all this root mass going on, and this big clump down the bottom, so we'll just continue working away into the roots and the soil. And it looks like it was just all just growing into, you know, twisting around into itself into some gnarled mess. We do have some nice roots at the top here, so you know, they're nice and brown. They haven't gone black where you know, they die off and go black. So we have got a bit of good shape with this, but all the roots really are twisted up and wrapped around on themselves, so it's going to take some sorting out, but we'll work with it. So the soil around the centre here is very, very compact. So where the roots have grown around originally, they're very compact within that section. It was probably in a smaller pot, and it was planted on and then planted on again and then planted on again, and obviously the roots will have never really been sorted out. It'll have just been continually planted on, and yeah, now at least we can get into these roots and try and organize them as best we can with what there is. There's a lot, but obviously, like I said, it's very twisted up and all growing round and round and round. There's a huge knoll lower down here of roots that have just really, and it is in the shape of a pot, so it would have been in a small rectangular pot, you know, that sort of shape, and you can see almost the shape of the pot where the roots have gone up and down and around. So yeah, it was lifted out of a small pot and slowly progressively put into larger pots as it's grown on. So I think that's going to cause us a little bit of an issue, because these roots down here are very, very strong, very thick and established, but we'll work the best that we can as always, and just try and free them up. And see there, we're getting them out from where they wrap round on themselves, and it's all twisted in and wrapped round and all going in amongst itself. So it's it is a real mess of roots, but we are getting there, getting a lot of the old soil out of all the crevices. We're almost at a position now where we can take them away and wash them up, but you can see here that these big thick roots are just going round and round in the where the old bottom of the pot would have been, and a lot of these we're just going to cut away, but it'd be nice to get these sorted out so that we can make a bit of a decision. Yeah, the roots really do wrap round and round and round, but we're slowly getting these into some order. So I think I'll go and try and wash these away now, and then we'll come back, we'll clear up and see what we've got to work with. So we've washed off the roots, and we have got this big tangled mess. But what we do have is this one huge taproot that comes off there, and that's got loads of root attached to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just see if we can sort out a few of the roots around it to try and do something with it, and then we're going to look to maybe remove that one big root. It comes and it swings back round on itself, so I think what we need to do is just take it off at a bit of a straight cut across there, and we'll take it away and see what we've got left. There is lots of other roots in and around it that will be a lot better, you know, they'll come out at a lot more radial position, and then hopefully we should get some more feeder roots off of that one large root that's coming round, and it doubles back on itself, and it does all sorts. So we're probably going to lose a lot of root by this, but in order for this to carry on its journey, we're going to have to sacrifice that now. So we'll come in with the shears, cut it, and then we'll take that away, see what we've lost as a result of that rather drastic cut. See there's roots twisted around roots, and it's I do think we will have lost quite a few roots as a result of removing that root. I'm trying to not lose, you know, break and damage other roots as a result, because there's we have lost a considerable amount of root by removing that one big taproot. We've then got these longer roots, but you can see they were blackening off down the bottom and starting to go a little bit mushy, so we'll just take these longer roots away, and then we'll just see what we've got to work with. Some of these, look, we can turn them and make them a little bit more radial, although our root plane we want to be here. I think what we're going to do initially is plant it back up at the original height and continue to use some of these roots that are already in position. We'll just be twisting them back round. There's a number of roots that are just twisting and going here, there and everywhere. We'll trim those back, take off these dark blackened roots, I think the roots were beginning to blacken off and die through some sort of rot where they were all twisted around and on themselves. A pine would normally rot its roots anyway to refeed itself, but we don't particularly need that to happen with ours. I'm just looking here, we've got another large root coming down in there where we haven't quite managed to clean away, and then that divides further down. But in order for this tree to survive, I want to try and leave as much root on as possible, and we'll slowly work away at the roots over the next couple of years. So it is an absolute knoll, twisted mess of roots. If we just get our rake and try and yeah, it's it's an absolute nest of roots. Normally we'd be cutting all these off and taking it back to next to nothing, and I'm just fighting that urge, because I'd like for this tree to survive, and we can always do some more severe root pruning as we go forward. So we'll get cleaned up again from this stage, and we'll look at getting this into a pot so that we can give it some water and allow it to recover. So I've got the pot here that it's going to go into, and I've put a layer of these clay pebbles in the bottom so as not to waste too much of the bonsai soil. And now I'm just going to put a layer of bonsai soil over the top of that for the tree to sit on. This is a mixture of vermiculite, perlite and some clay, kiln dried clay particles for absorbing spillages, oils, etc. And there's also some organic soil in there as well, from Grow It. I'll put a link to the bag of the peat soil mix that is. It does quite well. It says it's for professional growers and things like that, so you know, it's got like a bit of a fibery texture to it for what it is, but hopefully it's going to be okay in there. It's done well in some pots for some other things that we've had growing, so it'll be okay. So I've got the tree here, and the front has always been this ugly part where the trunk leaves this original trunk here. Hopefully that's going to grow out and become better over time. It does look like it was spliced in, and you know, a root mass was used to feed this this tree, so I'm not quite sure how it came to be, but this is going to be our front, so we get the full ugliness at the front, and we'll just work this in to a level that it can be, which is about there for our level of the pot. And then we just need to try and keep as much of these roots as radial as possible. I would have really liked to have taken a lot more off of these roots, and going forward we certainly will, but I'll just tease these out as as much as possible to make them more radial than the twisted fashion that they are at the moment. But yeah, it's we can't take too much more off because we'll probably definitely kill the tree, and I'd like for it to survive, so we'll fill in around the roots. It's going to take quite a bit of my soil that I've got left, so we'll have to probably try and arrange some soil at some stage, because this is probably going to pretty much wipe out the soil bin here. So I'm just going to work that in with a chopstick. There's lots of holes in there for it to work into. The vermiculite will get in there well and truly, and the perlite and the other bits of soil will work their way into the roots. And we'll have some serious root action to do on this probably in about 2 to 3 years time. We're going to uncover all of this, and hopefully there's a load more root for us to work with, and we'll be able to cut a lot of these horrible gnarly roots away. I just feel if we do it now, we could pretty much say goodbye to the tree. Whereas if we leave it in and allow it to grow for the summer, spring and summer, and then overwinter it, protect it, and then go again next year, leave it to grow, leave it to do what nature's best at, and then we can set about it in a couple of 3 years time. So we'll just continue to work all that in. It's beginning to firm up and stand on its own in the pot. And just try and steer these roots into the direction that we actually want them. They're starting to go back round their own way. We'll come back in with plenty of soil. Continue working in. So this will be a nice training pot for this 5-needle pine, and it will hopefully continue to grow and start growing nicely, and then in, like I've already said, in the next couple of years we'll be able to start attacking that root base and having a real good go at trying to get that radial root plane that we're always after. So that's the soil round to the lip of the pot, and I think the next thing we need to do is give it a nice good water. We are going to have to just cut this one root away that's sticking up out of the soil. So let's give it a water. So we'll come in with the watering bottle system, and we'll make sure to give it a good thorough watering. Make sure that all this fresh new soil absorbs lots of water so that it can feed, continue to supply the tree with the water that it requires. At the moment this soil is obviously bone dry. The organic material that was in there is absolutely bone dry, so we'll just make sure to get this equally spread all the way around. So I'll continue with this because it will take a little while, and then we'll come back. So we're now on to the second bottle of the bottle watering system, and we're just starting to get bits of water filtering through the bottom. So we'll just give plenty more water to make sure that all areas of this soil is nice and wetted through, and then we'll be able to let it sit and continue to grow on. So that's the tree fully watered now. You can see the water coming out of the bottom. It looks really nice and green and healthy. The needles have been coming out since spring started here. Hopefully they'll continue to grow, but we're probably going to be trimming a lot of this back, so it was the ideal time to get that big taproot off and start this in its training pot to on its journey of becoming our 5 needle pine bonsai. So that's it for the first stage of this 5 needle pine, the white pine, starting its journey to become a bonsai. We've got a lot of work to do, and I know that when we revisit this and repot it next time, we'll be cursing the fact that we didn't remove a lot of those roots that are in there. But if we're repotting it, that means that it survived, so maybe we won't be cursing the fact that we didn't take off so many roots on this repotting session. But hopefully the tree will carry on doing well. We won't take any branches off. We'll just let it continue to do everything that it can to survive and carry on growing, and we'll obviously keep revisiting it. I'll give some updates as we go along. So for now, for the 5 needle pine and Let's Do Bonsai, I'm Scott Winard. We'll see you again in the next one.